This is the story of a boy who could see ghosts, and somehow he fell in love with one. But everything changes the day he realizes that the spirit he's been seeing is hiding a very dark secret. The center of this story is a high school student named Busan, who is looking at some photographs while telling his mother that if the same strange problem happens again, he will return to his hometown. His words, however, do not go unnoticed because some classmates secretly click his pictures and mock him, saying they have heard he can see ghosts. What sounds like a joke quickly turns unsettling when Busan actually spots a ghost in the metro, confirming that the rumors are in fact true. This ability deeply disturbs him, and with fear creeping into his every step, he returns home, deciding that he will leave the very next day. That same night, he calls his uncle and informs him of his plan to come and stay with him. The next morning, as he travels toward his village, his bus stops briefly, and outside, a cute girl waves at him. He notices her but tries to ignore her, almost as if acknowledging her might invite trouble. Upon reaching his uncle's house, it is revealed that his uncle also possesses the ability to see ghosts. His uncle advises him to maintain distance from such entities and asks about a special locket his grandfather had given him. This locket has a peculiar trait. It begins to spin whenever a ghost is nearby, acting like a supernatural compass, except far more terrifying than helpful. Busan enrolls once again in his childhood school, which appears to be a Korean-style institution where bullying is, unfortunately, a common occurrence. Here, a dominant group of students, led by a boy named Chul, constantly harasses weaker students. His girlfriend, Yuji, is no better, often joining in the cruelty. During one such moment, Busan notices something chilling, a masked ghost standing outside the classroom. At the same time, Chul warns him not to talk to any girls in the school and mentions a girl named Aya, hinting at a story connected to their past. The narrative then briefly shifts to the past, revealing that Chul and Aya once studied together during their childhood. However, something happened later, something mysterious that the story has yet to fully uncover. Back in the present, we see another girl from the group heading home after school. Inside her house, she notices a hanging plastic bag. As she approaches it out of curiosity, the bag suddenly drops, releasing a horrifying amount of blood. Terrified, she tries calling her friends, but before any help can arrive, a masked ghost appears and captures her. The same ghost Busan had earlier seen outside the classroom. On another front, Busan encounters the girl from the bus again, whose name is Rose. It is revealed that she is also a ghost. Rose tells him that Chul deserves to be beaten for his behavior, as he unnecessarily bullies weaker students. Before Busan can process everything, she suddenly disappears, warning him that the masked ghost is nearby. Meanwhile, that very masked ghost has already killed the girl from the group. As days pass, Busan and Rose begin spending time together, forming an unusual bond that blurs the line between the living and the dead. Busan shares Aya's story with Rose, how she had suddenly disappeared one day. Both Busan and Rose can see ghosts, and Aya's spirit had once appeared to Busan, trying to reveal who killed her by pointing a finger. However, Busan lacked the courage to inform the police, as the killer was someone close to them. Busan still feels deeply guilty and decides to visit Aya's house. There, her father warmly welcomes him, holding on to memories of his daughter, and he was happy that Busan still remembers his daughter. Inside the house, Busan encounters Aya's younger, ghostly form, which is both heartbreaking and unsettling, leaving him overwhelmed with emotion. Despite the darkness surrounding them, Busan and Rose grow closer, eventually developing feelings for each other. They spend time together, almost forgetting the impossible reality that one of them is alive and the other is not. The next day at school, Yuji is seen beating a boy without any reason. Busan steps in and tells her to stop, but she continues until someone else intervenes. That night, Busan sketches Rose, capturing her presence on paper, while she playfully teases him, even catching him off guard while he is changing clothes, leaving her embarrassed. Later, while watching television, a news report reveals that a masked killer who had murdered several people years ago has finally been caught. This immediately reminds Busan of the masked ghost he had seen earlier. Seeking answers, he consults his uncle, who in turn speaks with a ghost residing in their house. The ghost reveals that the masked figure is known as Tae-hee, but provides no further details. Meanwhile, two members of the bullying group sneak into the school to retrieve a phone confiscated by a teacher. After retrieving it, they return to the classroom and begin fooling around. The girl went to the washroom and the boy waited for her, when suddenly, the masked ghost appeared again. Without warning, it captures and kills him. The girl hears a scream and rushes to the spot, only to find nothing at first, but moments later, she discovers his lifeless body outside. The masked ghost lingers nearby. She desperately tries to call her friend, but to no avail. It is at this chilling moment that the horrifying truth becomes clear that the masked entity haunting them is none other than Taehee's ghost, continuing a cycle of terror that refuses to end. The next day in class, Busan begins asking everyone about Taehee, trying to uncover the truth. However, the entire class remains silent, as if bound by an unspoken fear. One girl seems ready to speak, but she is immediately stopped by another. It becomes evident that everyone knows what happened, yet no one dares to say it aloud, mainly because of the terror created by the bullying group. Later, the same girl secretly messages Busan, warning him not to dig into Taehee's story, or it will only bring trouble upon him. Despite this, Busan grows even more determined. The girl eventually confesses that no one truly cared about how Taehee died, but she knows the truth that Taehee died because of Chol. Filled with anger, Busan storms off to confront Chul, intending to attack him. However, Chul overpowers him easily and beats him badly. In that moment, Busan shouts that someone's death is the result of both Chul and his group's actions. Hearing this, Yuji becomes visibly shaken. Soon after, Yuji shows Chul a photograph of Taehee's father, claiming that this man knows their truth and is now killing their friends to take revenge for his daughter. The two of them decide to confront him. Yuji suggests calling Busan along, but Chul refuses. Despite this, she secretly sends a message to Busan, informing him of everything. After hearing everything from Yuji, Busan decides to go to Taehee's house. Meanwhile, Chul and Yuji reach the house first. Inside, they discover a mysterious box from which eerie sounds are coming. Moments later, the masked ghost appears. They realize that this ghost is the one responsible for the killings. Suddenly, Taehee's father emerges from the box and kills Chol. Yuji begins screaming in terror, but it is of no use. Before dying, she apologizes sincerely for everything she had done, but even that cannot save her, and she too is killed. Taehee's father then walks out of the house. Busan arrives just in time to see him leaving. He cautiously enters the house, only to be met with a horrifying sight that all the members of the bullying group lie dead inside. In the same room, he notices the box again, and within it stands the masked ghost, the very figure he has been seeing since the beginning. But then comes a shocking revelation. When the mask is removed, it is revealed that the ghost is actually Rose, the same girl Busan had spent time with, the same girl he had unknowingly fallen in love with. From here, the story shifts into the past, unraveling the truth behind everything. Yuji used to brutally bully a girl named Taehee in class. One day, a teacher humiliates Yuji publicly after receiving a complaint letter about her behavior. Furious, Yuji begins comparing handwriting samples across the class and eventually matches the letter to Taehee. Realizing that Taehee was the one who reported her, Yuji and her group unleash unimaginable cruelty upon her. They beat her mercilessly, threaten her, cut her hair, burn parts of it, and finally force a mask onto her face, declaring that she must always wear it so that her voice remains silenced. What follows is even more disturbing. This torment continues in front of the entire class, yet no one steps in to help. Even the girl for whom Taehee had filed the complaint does nothing. One day, during class, a teacher asks Taehee to remove her mask. When she refuses, the teacher forcefully removes it. This only triggers Yuji and her group again, who violently attack her for daring to reveal her face. Her life is slowly and brutally destroyed, piece by piece. At home, Taehee is seen crying endlessly. When her father told her that he would complain about this to the principal, Taehee was sure that nothing would be changed, and from that, she took her own life. In the present, when Busan was going through Taehee's diary, it is revealed that he had once been close to her in childhood. They had studied together when they were young. Taehee had even protected him from bullying multiple times back then, but over time, he had forgotten her. As Busan goes through her belongings, he discovers her diary filled with names, the names of those responsible for her suffering. One by one, those names are crossed out, leaving only a single name remaining: the girl with glasses. Realizing the pattern, Busan understands that the cycle of revenge is not over yet, and that Taehee's spirit will return to the school for the final target. Without wasting a second, he calls his uncle and asks him to perform a ritual at Taehee's house. Then, driven by urgency and fear, he runs toward the school, knowing that whatever happens next will decide the end of this terrifying chain of events. The story resumes inside the school, where a teacher is quietly working on a computer. Suddenly, something unsettling appears on the screen. The presence of Taehee manifests out of nowhere. The scene abruptly cuts, and at the same time, a message is sent to all the students, urging them to gather in the lab immediately. Busan also arrives there, confused, and begins asking about the teacher, but no one seems to know anything. Then, the teacher enters, but it becomes clear that something is terribly wrong. Her body is now possessed. Moments later, Taehee appears in her true form. Overcome with rage, she begins spraying petrol around, preparing to burn everyone alive. Busan desperately tries to stop her, but she is on the verge of lighting the fire. At that critical moment, Rose appears, revealed to be the good side of Taehee's soul. However, Taehee's anger has grown far too powerful. In a chilling act, she separates her own good side, discarding it completely, and then possesses the principal's body, continuing her rampage. Panic spreads among the students as Busan uses the locket his grandfather gave him, trying to identify which body Taehee's spirit has taken over. The locket begins reacting near a particular girl. At this point, Busan shows her a notebook, triggering a memory sequence that reveals the truth that Busan and Taehee had been childhood friends. Back then, Taehee had protected him countless times from bullies, and she had quietly cared for him. Realizing this, Busan is overwhelmed with guilt and apologizes sincerely for not recognizing her and for forgetting her. Meanwhile, his uncle is performing a ritual elsewhere, trying to put an end to the spirit's unrest. However, before anything can be resolved, Taehee pulls the knife from Busan's pocket and uses it on herself. The scene cuts abruptly, transitioning into a series of memories, moments shared between Busan and Rose, filled with warmth, companionship, and an almost poetic romance that now feels tragically distant. Eventually, everything comes to an end, and we see them at a grave, marking the closure of that haunting chapter. Time passes, and years later, Busan has become a teacher himself, returning to the same school, this time standing on the other side of the classroom. While teaching, he notices a ghost sitting on the last bench. When he asks the students about it, they casually respond that a girl used to sit there but has since transferred to another school. Yet, as the ghost slowly walks toward Busan, it becomes clear that the truth is being hidden. The implication lingers heavily that the girl never truly left, that she might have suffered the same fate of torment and despair, and that the cycle could still be continuing. The story ends on this unsettling note, leaving behind unanswered questions. One cannot help but wonder whether Taehee's father was truly responsible for the murders, or if Taehee herself, in her vengeful form, carried them out, or perhaps both played a role. What do you guys think? Comment below.